Why is it important to study respiratory system and circulatory system? And what is the connection of wearing face mask to our lesson? Let's find out. What is a community face mask? It is a non-medical grade face mask required for people to wear in public. The wearing of community face mask is only effective if utilized along with proper hand hygiene and physical distancing. Our lesson for this week is about transport of nutrients in the respiratory and circulatory system. This lesson will provide you information on how respiratory and circulatory system work together in transporting nutrients, gases, and other molecules to and from the different parts of the body. For respiratory system, you will learn the parts of human respiratory system, how gas exchange and transport of nutrients happen. You can match airflow and blood flow during ventilation and learn the securing and guarding in the respiratory tract. Likewise, in circulatory system, you will be familiar with the parts of the circulatory system. You will also know more about the functions and mechanisms involved in it. You will also find out some injuries and diseases that can affect the circulatory system and ways by which we can take good care of this system. This lesson is very important, especially at this time of pandemic, because what is affected in our body are the main organs of respiratory system and circulatory system. The best way to keep you in good health is to maintain an internal balance or homeostasis of your cells and organ systems. You need to take healthy foods for continuous energy, do a regular exercise, have a good and sound sleep to rest your mind and body. Take vitamins and a lot more of the positive ways to boost your immune system. When you eat foods, you are actually using the chemical energy that fuels your body to various activities. How are these nutrients, other fluids, gases, and other molecules transported in your body? Can you enumerate the different organ systems in your body that work together to perform each functions to maintain homeostasis? You can start by doing a simple exercise. Are you ready? Try to jump 5 times before you continue studying the lesson. Have you felt some changes in your body? Try to feel the left part of your chest. Do you feel an increase and faster heartbeat than when you are just sitting or doing a regular routine of being stationary in your place? After jumping or running, are you grasping for more air? Feel your heartbeat and pulse rate. These are two organ systems that work together to allow the exchange of gases when you are doing strenuous activity like jumping. These are the respiratory system and the circulatory system. Nowadays, in the time of pandemic, if a person is experiencing symptoms like fever, colds, and has a hard time of breathing, there is a necessary measure to keep oneself away from the suspicion of having acquired the virus that weakens the respiratory system. This can be explained by the interaction of respiratory and circulatory system if the virus gets in the body. Our body has 3 types of blood vessels, and they are called vein, artery, and capillary. Our body is covered with veins. Veins can be seen in some areas or parts of our body which in violet or in green color. Veins are blood vessels containing blood flowing to the heart. Vein is a blood vessel with thin muscular walls and large lumen. It takes blood towards the heart. Blood carried slowly under low pressure. It has valves to prevent backflow. Largest vein is called vena cava. Artery is a blood vessel with thick muscular walls and narrow lumen. It takes blood away from the heart. Blood carried quickly under high pressure. It has no valves. Largest artery is called aorta. Capillary is the blood vessel with walls 1 cell thick and very small lumen. It usually carries blood at low pressure. Found around tissues where nutrients and waste are exchanged. Thin walls allow easy diffusion. Artery, capillary, and vein are all connected to each other. Capillaries are tiny branches located at the middle where exchange of nutrients and waste occur. Artery doesn't have valve, while veins do have. Remember that veins take blood towards the heart, while arteries take away blood from the heart. Again, take away blood from the heart. Circulatory system transport nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide, white blood cells, and hormones to our body. Combined with the cardiovascular system, the circulatory system helps to fight off disease, helps the body maintain a normal body temperature, and provides the right chemical balance to provide the body's homeostasis or state of balance among all its systems. Blood flow refers to the movement of blood through a vessel, tissue, or organ, and is usually expressed in terms of volume of blood per unit of time. It is initiated by the contraction of the ventricles of the heart. Ventricular contraction ejects blood into the major arteries, resulting in flow from regions of higher pressure to regions of lower pressure. As blood encounters smaller arteries and arterioles, then capillaries, then the venules and veins of the venous system. The respiratory system is the network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. It includes your airways, lungs, and blood vessels. The muscles that power your lungs are also part of the respiratory system. These parts work together to move oxygen throughout the body and clean out waste gases like carbon dioxide. These are the different organs of respiratory system, and they are nose, larynx, trachea, bronchus, bronchioles, left lung and right lung. Inside the lungs, we have this called alveoli or air sacs, where exchange of gases happen. There are some words that might be included in your learning task. Let us define them one by one. The aorta is the main artery that carries blood away from your heart to the rest of your body. The blood leaves the heart through the aortic valve. Then it travels through the aorta, making a cane-shaped curve that allows other major arteries to deliver oxygen-rich blood to the brain, muscles, and other cells. The left atrium and right atrium are the two upper chambers of the heart. The left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs. The right atrium receives the oxygenated blood returning from other parts of the body. Valves connect the atria to the ventricles and the lower chambers. The right ventricle pumps the oxygen-poor blood to the lungs through the pulmonary valve. The left atrium receives oxygen-rich blood from the lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle through the mitral valve. The left ventricle pumps the oxygen-rich blood through the aortic valve out to the rest of the body. Pulmonary artery carries oxygen-poor blood from the right ventricle into the lungs, where oxygen enters the bloodstream. Left ventricle is the thickest of the heart's chambers and is responsible for pumping oxygenated blood to tissues all over the body. By contrast, The right ventricle solely pumps blood to the lungs. What are the functions of the respiratory system? It delivers oxygen to the cells of the body and removes carbon dioxide, a cell waste product. How does the gas exchange happen? During inhalation, air or oxygen enters the body through the nose. As air passes through the nasal cavity located inside the nose, the air is warmed to body temperature and humidified. From the nasal cavity, air passes through the pharynx or throat and the larynx or voice box. The air will now move to the trachea, also known as the windpipe. It is the main passageway of air to the lungs. There are three types of blood circulation. First, the systemic circulation. It is the largest part of the circulatory system in which oxygen-rich blood flows to all organs and body tissues except the lungs. Next is coronary circulation. It is the movement of blood through the tissues of the heart or what. Next is pulmonary circulation, the movement of blood from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart again. Question: compare and contrast the pulmonary and systemic circulation. Answer: the pulmonary circulation is the movement of blood to and from the lungs, while the systemic circulation is the movement of blood from heart to the rest of the body except lungs. On which blood vessel does gas exchange take place? A. Artery, B. Vein, C. Capillaries. The answer is letter C, capillaries. Which side of the heart pumps blood from the body to the lungs? The answer is right ventricle. There are 10 parts that we need to remember in order for us to understand the circulation of blood to our body. 1. Superior vena cava or the inferior vena cava. Number 2. Right atrium. 3. Right ventricle. 4. Pulmonary artery. 5. Lungs. 6. Pulmonary vein. 7. Left atrium. 8. Left ventricle. 9. Aorta. And 10. Body. The transport of nutrients and oxygen start from superior vena cava, the upper body, and inferior vena cava, the lower body, wherein the oxygenated blood or oxygen 4 from the body will pass through. Then right atrium receives the oxygenated blood from the body. From right atrium, blood will go to right ventricle, wherein right ventricle pumps the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. The blood that comes from right ventricle will travel to pulmonary artery, a passageway of the oxygenated blood from heart to the lungs. In our lungs, alveoli is located, where gas exchange occur. Alveoli diffuse oxygen to the blood, and blood diffuse carbon dioxide to the alveoli. Then blood becomes oxygenated. The oxygenated blood that comes from the lungs will now move to pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein is a passageway of oxygenated blood from lungs to the heart. Then left atrium receives the oxygenated blood. The blood that comes from left atrium will travel to left ventricle, wherein left ventricle pumps the oxygenated blood away from the heart to the body. From left ventricle, blood will go now to aorta. Aorta is a passageway of oxygenated blood to the body. Now, body will receive the oxygen, nutrients, and other materials through the blood. And body will release carbon dioxide. Then blood becomes deoxygenated. Summary of today's lesson. 1. Where does gas exchange happen? 2. Which part of the heart receives oxygenated blood? 3. Which part of the heart pumps the oxygenated blood? 4. What is the function of aorta? Where does gas exchange happen? Answer. In alveoli or air sacs, and it is located in our lungs. 2. Which part of the heart receives oxygenated blood? Answer. Left atrium. 3. Which part of the heart pumps the oxygenated blood? Answer. Left ventricle. 4. What is the function of aorta? Aorta is the passageway of oxygenated blood to the body. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimate that 3 to 17% of COVID-19 patients develop a complication known as acute respiratory distress syndrome or ARDS. With ARDS, patients lose the ability to breathe normally, and this is known as respiratory failure that results from severe inflammation in the lungs. Inflammation arises when there is damage to cells, and in case of COVID-19, which infects lung cells and damages them. Inflammation causes swelling, which is the result of increased fluid moving to the site of injury or damage. Unfortunately, when fluid moves into the lungs cannot perform their normal function, taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide.